Welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha, a podcast shared by David Roylance. This podcast is dedicated to guiding you to completely eliminate the discontent mind and the suffering it causes by attaining enlightenment. Learn and practice the teachings of Gotama Buddha that will guide you to fully attain a peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind with joy. To support this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha or visit buddhadailywisdom.com, where you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online learning resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Now, here's our teacher to share more.
Okay, I'm going to get started this morning by welcoming everyone. Welcome to Tung. Nice to see all of you guys here. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. This is our group learning program where each Sunday and Wednesday I get together with students, helping them to understand the path to enlightenment. What I do is I start out with meditation, and then afterwards I'll share some teachings with you from the Buddha. Today, we're actually in the frequently asked questions section of this book. We go chapter by chapter each Sunday. We're coming to an end of this program, and we're going to be restarting it on the 9th of August. And today we're in the frequently asked questions section. These are 11 questions that students oftentimes will ask as part of their journey to enlightenment. And I'm going to share the details of those with you, helping you to be able to understand that. And then we'll talk about some of the content at the very back of the book as well. So welcome to all of you guys here. Welcome to everyone online as well. If you'd like to join for meditation, I'm going to start with some chanting in order to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. If you choose to chant, you'll see that it actually helps to improve your meditation and you'll get more benefit out of the meditation. During the lifetime of the Buddha, he used chanting as a way to help his students to commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. This is how they were able to remember what it is that he actually taught. Where today we use videos, podcasts, audiobooks, books, and things like this. These things didn't exist 2,500 years ago. So they used chanting in order to help them. It was a learning tool or as a learning device. So you can see from the origins of chanting that this isn't a rite, ritual, ceremony, worship, or prayer. There's none of those kinds of things in the teachings of the Buddha. If you're seeing those kinds of things associated with his teachings, those aren't his actual teachings. He never taught any of those kinds of things. All of the teachings that he shares is about how to do this inner work, this inner growth and development to be able to train your mind. If you would like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. We have chanting sheets over there on the cabinet. You're welcome to help yourself and get a chanting sheet, and you'll be able to chant along, and you'll see that it actually helps you during your meditation. If you end up getting one of those sheets and you read the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of this, I don't think the Buddha even created these chants himself, because the Buddha wouldn't have gone around and said, here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me, because this would be ego or arrogance. And by the time you've gotten to enlightenment, you no longer think of yourself as being above people or below people. So the Buddha wouldn't have done that. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy, all these feelings that you experience in the unenlightened state, to the point where you've been able to train your mind to get to a point where it's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy, and this teacher didn't want anything or expect anything from you, you might actually have a lot of appreciation and respect for that person too. So that's why I think these chants actually came from his students, either during his life or after his death. After the chanting, I'm going to come in with some guidance, where I'm essentially going to be teaching you and instructing you how to meditate while we're actually meditating together. Then there's going to be a period of time of quietness where we're just all meditating, everyone here at the temple and anyone joining online. During this period of time of quietness, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds. There might be a car going by, a dog barking, a bird chirping, someone here might cough or sneeze. This is all completely normal. If you're in meditation with a craving for permanent silence and you hear a sound, you will cause your mind to be annoyed or frustrated. This is the cause of your feelings. Oftentimes people think it's the outside world that's causing these feelings, but it's actually what's going on in your own mind. It's not your mom and dad making you angry, or your brother and sister that are frustrating you, your boss is annoying you. It's actually your own mind that's causing this. This is why you can eliminate these feelings. So if your mind is craving permanence, while you live in an impermanent world, you will cause your mind to be annoyed or frustrated. But if you understand that the world is impermanent and it's constantly changing, when you hear a sound during meditation, you'll know that's completely normal. That sound's going to arise, it's going to change, and it's going to fade away. You're not going to be able to meditate in an environment where it's permanently quiet. You're going to experience sounds. So you could rest at ease in understanding this is the way that the world works. Then we're going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting. And then that's where I'll start today's class, helping you guys to understand the frequently asked questions of students and helping you to understand the answers to those questions as well. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times as part of your journey to enlightenment. It's like creating a tool belt, and you use these different tools at different times in order to be able to help you in your journey to enlightenment. So oftentimes students are learning in the seated position. So I'll share some details with you on this in order to help you get started. You could be sitting on the floor or in a chair. Maybe if you're at home, you're on a bench or a sofa in a wheelchair. You can sit however you like. If you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This will kind of help soften your seat a bit. And if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross-leg position, you might just choose to do that lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, it can impede the circulation and cause pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, allowing the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it, but it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way, because that would be permanence, and we don't live in that world. We live in an impermanent world. So there's other options here for you as well. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. The same thing's true for anybody who's in a chair or a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can also sit however you like. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, but you can see me sitting in a chair here with my legs crossed. So this is an option as well. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. It's helpful if the upper body is erect, because this helps keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. With the sternum up and the shoulders back, it'll help you to actually meditate because your mind will be more attentive and alert. Meditation is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind could have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you're real rigid with the upper body, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be in the middle with the sternum up and the shoulders back, because not only will it keep the mind attentive and alert, but it'll make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So I'm going to get started here with the chanting. Again, you guys are welcome to join in, and then I'll come back in with the guidance afterwards. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakewa Bhutang Mahakewanhang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakewata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakewato Savakasangho Sanghang Namami Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso emakewa arahang sammasammuto vicacaranang sammuno sakatoro kawitu anutero purisa dhamma sati satatawa manusrang poto bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, in the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathe in gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเกวาโอตังมหาเกวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเกวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเกวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมอะระหะสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมอะระหะสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมอะระหะสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังปุตโตภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, good morning to all of you guys. Welcome to everyone here. Welcome to everyone joining online as well. Today is our group learning program. So what I'm going to be doing with you is sharing some content from this book. This is the book for our group learning program. Each Sunday I go chapter by chapter, and we're coming to the end of the book, and we're in the frequently asked questions section. As you're learning and growing and developing on the path to enlightenment, there's going to be many questions that you have as part of your journey, because what you're doing on the path to enlightenment is you're cultivating wisdom. You need to be able to learn something intellectually, investigate it, and examine it. You need to be able to reflect on it to verify if it's true or if it's false, and then you need to practice training your mind through these teachings. And that's where you cultivate wisdom, and more your mind will awaken to this wisdom. That's what it means to awaken or to be awake, is that you cultivate wisdom. So when you hear things from a teacher about the path to enlightenment, it's going to oftentimes be very opposite of what you currently think about the world or what you think about the teachings of the Buddha. If you're currently experiencing anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy, that means that the mind is unenlightened, and there's a certain lack of wisdom in the mind. So if you come into an environment where what you're hearing from a teacher is all the same things that you already know, you're actually in the wrong environment. That's not the best place to actually be, because in order to be able to get to enlightenment, you're going to need to move beyond what it is that you currently think about the world. That's why the mind's struggling and having difficulties with stress and anxiety and things like this, is because The mind just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. Oftentimes people think that these feelings are being caused by the outside world, that maybe it's your mom and dad or brothers and sisters or people like this that are causing these feelings in your mind. But it's actually what's going on in your own mind. So what you're doing on this path is you're transforming your mind by training your mind. And just like you learned how to clean this body growing up as a child, you're going to need to learn how to clean the mind. That's what's going to lead to this higher consciousness where your mind can perform, where you have nothing but peace, calm, serenity, and contentedness with joy. You'll get to the point where your mind is focused, you have concentration, clarity, and deep memory. You'll notice that your personal, professional relationships are really blossoming because you don't have bitterness and harshness and hostility anymore by the time you get to enlightenment. Because as long as you're putting that out, that's what's coming back to you. You'll get to a point where you don't even experience a bad mood any longer, that it's physically impossible for that to occur. In order to be able to do that, you need to cultivate wisdom. So when a teacher is teaching, you're not going to understand things right away from the very beginning. So there's certain questions that students ask. And what I did here at the end of the book is I kind of accumulated a bunch of questions that didn't necessarily fit into the other chapters, and I put them all the way at the end of the book. So I'm going to share those with you guys. And as I'm going through these and teaching you these, I'm going to open up for questions here too, so that you guys can ask questions about the frequently asked questions that I'm sharing. So if you guys have questions, you're welcome to ask those. Here at the temple, we have microphones in the white bowl there in the middle of the room. There's also some up here where you can get a microphone, and if you could press the gray button and turn it on. If you hold that up to your chin, we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And you can keep these with you because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share the microphone. And if you're not using it, if you could turn it off, that'll be helpful so we don't get feedback through the speakers. And then anybody who's joining online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, and I'll be able to see that. Or if you're in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and ask any and all questions that you like that way. So let's just jump right into this and explore the frequently asked questions that are part of your journey to enlightenment, that these are frequently asked questions that students will tend to ask. So here's the first one. Oftentimes when people are just getting started on the path to enlightenment, they'll say, how do I become a Buddhist? Well, what I usually share with students is the Buddha wasn't a Buddhist, so you don't actually need to become a Buddhist in order to be able to get to enlightenment. What the Buddha is teaching you as part of the path is to eliminate labels that you have in your mind. If you have a label that like I am American, or I am Italian, or I am Chinese, or I am Canadian, or I am a Brit, or I am an Aussie, any of this I am, that means when you hear people say things that are fond of you or agreeable to you, you'll get really happy and excited about that. But if you hear people say things that are disagreeable about your culture, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation, your nationality, or your job or occupation, you'll get really angry and frustrated. So if somebody said all Americans are lovely and kind and warm and gentle, I've never heard this before, but maybe somebody might actually say that. If you thought that I am American and now you hear that, you'd probably get all these pleasant feelings and so happy and excited. But it's only a matter of time before somebody in the world says something degrading and disparaging about their nationality or any identity that you're holding on to in your mind. This path to enlightenment isn't about changing other people. It's about training your own mind so that you can control your own mind. So if you hold this identity that I am American, and now somebody says something degrading and disparaging about your nationality, you're going to be angry and frustrated because you think they're talking about me or talking about you. So this idea of how do I become a Buddhist, this is to adopt a label that I am Buddhist. So now if somebody says, all Buddhists are lovely and kind and warm and gentle, you'd get so happy because your mind thinks I am Buddhist and they're talking about me. But it's only a matter of time before somebody says something degrading and disparaging about Buddhist. And now if you hold that identity in your mind, you're going to be angry and frustrated. So you could talk to plenty of people, and there'll be people that will tell you that there's certain ceremonies that you can do, there's certain vows that you can take, there's certain things that you can do to become a Buddhist. But the Buddha never taught any of those kinds of things. And in order to be able to get to enlightenment, you need to get back to what it is that the Buddha actually taught, because that's what's going to lead to your enlightenment. So if you're doing all these things that people changed and modified in his teachings, it's not actually going to lead to enlightenment. He cautioned people not to change his teachings. He knew that they would, but he cautioned people not to do that. So if you get back to what it is that the Buddha actually taught, you can see that it actually leads to enlightenment. But if you adopt this idea that I am a Buddhist, you're not actually going to experience enlightenment there, because enlightenment is to eliminate discontent feelings. But if you think I am Buddhist, and now somebody says something degrading or disparaging about Buddhists, you're going to get angry and frustrated. Your mind's not enlightened. So you need to be able to train your mind to let that go. So there's no ritual or ceremony or anything like that associated with becoming a Buddhist, but you'll actually talk to many people that will tell you that there is. And who in the world is able to determine what a Buddhist is and what a Buddhist isn't? Right? Who makes that decision? There's nobody that makes that decision. So you don't need to become anything. In fact, what you need to do is train your mind to let all that stuff go. And that's what's going to lead to your peace and your joy. Sometimes people ask this question: do I need to give up all my possessions, occupation, and relationships to attain enlightenment? Where this question usually comes from is people are aware that the Buddha was a prince destined to become a king, and he left from the royal palace and went off on this journey of inner work and inner growth and inner development to actually get to enlightenment. He left for 6 years and actually trained his mind. And people think that, oh, maybe I need to do that too in order to be able to get to enlightenment. That's not true. Just because the Buddha did that as part of his journey doesn't mean that that's what you need to do. In fact, he didn't eliminate all of his relationships, his possessions, and he didn't eliminate his occupation either, because he was actually a teacher, right? So what he did is he stepped away from his normal life in order to be able to train his mind. And then ultimately he came back to where his wife was, his son. These people were actually ordaining with him. His mother, which was his stepmother, ordained with him. Different relatives from his family came and were learning with him. So he still had possessions, he had an occupation, and he had relationships as well. What you need to do is not necessarily let go of these things physically. You need to let go of them mentally. If you're holding on to a possession, to your occupation, or to relationships, and you're craving for it to be permanent, that's what's going to lead to your discontentedness, where the world is full of impermanence. Things are going to be constantly changing. Your possessions are not permanent. Your mobile phone is not permanent. Someday it's going to break, or it's going to stop working. Someone's going to steal it, or you're going to misplace it. This phone that you have is not permanent. Someday it's going to leave you. But if you held on to this and crave for it to be permanent, now you're going to experience discontentedness. So in order to get to the peace and joy where the mind is no longer experiencing discontent feelings like anger, sadness, and frustration, you don't need to eliminate the phone. The physical object isn't what you're eliminating. That's not the craving, desire, attachment. What you're eliminating is inside the mind, where the mind is longing, yearning for it to be permanent. So you'll have plenty of possessions. You're going to need to have an occupation. You're going to have certain relationships that you interact in. But by the time you get to enlightenment, your mind's not craving for these things to be permanent. And that's why there's peace and joy in the mind. Then this is another common question. People ask, what is reincarnation and rebirth, and are they the same thing? We're actually just talking about this yesterday a little bit, right? So these are not the same thing, and the Buddha didn't necessarily teach these things. In the original source teachings, which is in the Pali language, the Buddha uses the word samsara. This is oftentimes translated into the cycle of rebirth. So some people use the word reincarnation, and it depends on who you're talking to and what teacher you're actually are learning with, that they will use different words. So I'll explain to you guys what these things are and what the Buddha actually taught on this topic. So the word reincarnation, when people are usually talking about this, they're usually talking about a soul that goes from one life to the next, and you are the exact same being as a previous life, and there's this soul that continues forward in each individual life. If you've been taught this, this isn't what the Buddha actually taught. You can see in his original teachings that he never taught whether there is a soul or there isn't a soul. In fact, the whole idea of a soul conflicts with one of his very beginning teachings, which is the universal truth of impermanence. And it also conflicts with the universal truth of non-self. For those of you guys that understand those teachings, you can understand that that is actually a conflict. So the Buddha never taught reincarnation and that there's a soul that goes from one life to the next. Then the other term that people tend to use is the cycle of rebirth, which this is a little bit closer to what the Buddha taught, but it's still not 100% accurate. The cycle of rebirth is where there's continuous rebirth over and over and over and over and over again, where it's a new being in a new existence every single time. So this is what the Buddha taught, but the cycle of rebirth isn't the best way to actually describe this, because there isn't anything that's actually being reborn. It's a brand new body and it's a brand new mind every single time. So the Buddha, using the word samsara, he understood what that meant, but when people are translating it into English, they're translating it into whatever they think that it means. So the cycle of rebirth is what a lot of people use. But a better way to think about this is the cycle of new existence, because it's a brand new existence every single time. There are certain aspects of the mind, craving and residual memories, that go from one mind to the next, but that's not rebirth, because it's not anything being reborn. It's just that there's cravings and residual memories going from one life to the next, but it's a brand new body and a brand new mind every single time. So these things aren't the same thing, reincarnation and rebirth. And I would suggest that you think about this as the cycle of new existence, because that's going to bring you to what the Buddha actually was teaching, which is a brand new body and a brand new mind every single time. Then the next question that usually follows that one is, can I be Buddhist without believing in rebirth? The answer is absolutely, because you don't need to be a Buddhist. First of all, we talked about that in the first one, right? You need to get rid of that label. And the next thing is, you should never believe anything in the teachings of the Buddha. There is no belief in his teachings whatsoever. With belief, you don't know what's true or false. You're just believing it because someone convinced you to believe it, or you convinced yourself to believe it. You don't know what is true. So the Buddha's teachings aren't based in belief. If you ever hear anyone talking about belief in terms of the teachings of the Buddha never taught that. He taught just the opposite. He said, come, examine my teachings, see for yourself, investigate them, cultivate wisdom. That's what he was explaining. He didn't teach people to believe him. He needed you to be able to see the wisdom of his teachings in order for you to experience the results. He wasn't trying to convince you of any particular thing. He's teaching you how to get to this peace and joy, because he already figured it out for himself. And then he was sharing with other people how to experience that same mental state. So you can absolutely learn and practice and develop on the path to enlightenment without believing in anything whatsoever, including the cycle of rebirth or the cycle of new existence. I would encourage you to never believe in that. In fact, what I suggest people do when they first start out is just set it aside, because it really doesn't matter when you first get started on the path, because what's happened in the past, it's in the past. It doesn't matter right now. And what may or may not happen in the future, it's in the future. It doesn't matter right now. What matters is you're in this human state. This is the ideal existence, to be able to train your mind. You experience discontentedness like anger, sadness, frustration, and others, and you would like to fix that. And in order to fix it, you need to be able to learn and practice the core central teachings of the Buddha. So start there. Start with things like the 3 universal truths, the 4 noble truths, the Eightfold Path, the 5 precepts, meditation training. That's where you would like to start. The whole idea of rebirth and understanding that teaching, that's much later in your journey. So I would encourage you to use the resources that I share, because they're based in the original words of the Buddha, and they're available for you at no cost. And you can learn all the core teachings getting started and starting to train your mind and starting to see the results. That's where you'd really like to get started, and never believe in anything whatsoever. Then people ask me, what does it mean to take refuge in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha? And is there a ceremony to do this? So first, let me explain to you what these words are. Of course, the Buddha is the individual, the teacher, who figured out how to get to enlightenment by himself without the help of any teachers or guides. He then dedicated his life to sharing his teachings that he discovered, and countless people got to enlightenment during his lifetime. Then he preserved his teachings in such a way that countless more people got to enlightenment after his death. That's what makes a Buddha a Buddha. This is a very rare type of individual in the world that meets these three criteria. Some people will tell you that everybody is a Buddha. This isn't actually true. The Buddha never taught that. A Buddha is very rare in the world, and they meet those three criteria. They get to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or guides. They dedicate the rest of their life to sharing their independently discovered teachings with countless people, and countless people will get to enlightenment during their lifetime. And then they will preserve their teachings in such a way that countless more people will get to enlightenment after their death. So that's what a Buddha is. What the Dhamma is this is a Pali word, which I actually don't really use it anymore, that this means teachings. That's what that means. And then the word Sangha, what this means is the community. Sometimes people think that this means the ordained community, but the word Sangha means community as a whole. And then the Buddha separated the community into different segments. There's a male ordained segment of the community, there's a female ordained section of the community, and then there's household practitioners. And then there's part of the community that is in one of the 4 stages of enlightenment. These are the 4 aspects of the community. But when we use the word Sangha, we're referring to the community at large. And this is what we call the triple gem or the triple jewel, the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, or the Buddha, the teachings, and the community. And these 3 things are very important to you because you actually need confidence in the Buddha. You need to have access to his teachings, and you need to be part of a community. If you just had 1 or 2 of these things, you actually wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment. In order to be able to get to enlightenment, you need all 3. And when you first come to the path to enlightenment, you might not actually have all 3. You might not have confidence in the Buddha. You might not actually think this person even existed. You might not have access to his teachings, and you might not be part of a community. But you're going to need all 3 of these things in order to get to enlightenment. So we call them the triple gem or the triple jewel. And we show respect to each of these things, because for anybody who's learned and practiced the teachings of the Buddha, his actual teachings, and they've seen the progress to the condition of their mind in their life, then they'll have this amount of respect, a certain amount of respect for the Buddha himself. Then there will be a certain amount of respect for the teachings and what they've actually done to be able to help improve the condition of your mind. And then as well as the community, you'll have respect for the people that are part of the community, because you're not just learning from the teacher, but you're actually learning from other members of the community as well. So this is called the triple gem or the triple jewel. And some people think that you need to take refuge in the triple gem or the triple jewel. What it means to take refuge is to have protection. People think that there's a ceremony that you need to do in order to be able to get protection from the outside world and the things that you're experiencing in your day-to-day life. So there'll be plenty of people that will tell you about some type of ceremony or some type of ritual that is going to now allow you to take refuge in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. And they think that this is what makes you actually become Buddhist. This isn't true. The thing that's actually going to protect you is your wisdom. Making wise decisions is what's going to protect you. There's no ceremony, there's no ritual, there's no prayer that can protect you. If you go outside and you make unwise decisions, it doesn't matter what you're doing in a building like this, you're going to go out there and you're going to experience unwholesome results. So for example, if you walk across the street without looking both directions, you're going to get hit by a car or a truck. Doesn't matter what type of ritual or ceremony or prayer that you do. So there is no type of refuge in the Buddha in terms of the protection. What the Buddha is talking about when he describes refuge in the Buddha, the teachings, and the community is he's talking about protecting your mind through learning and training your mind, uprooting the pollutions in your mind, cultivating wisdom, because that's what's actually going to protect you. So by going to the Buddha, the teachings, and the community, you are taking refuge because you're actually cultivating wisdom to be able to train your mind and now make wiser decisions. But you're doing that through learning, growing, and developing on the path. You're not doing that through any kind of ceremony or ritual or anything like this. Even though there's plenty of people in the world that'll do those things for you, that's not required in order for you to be able to train your mind to get to enlightenment. There are no rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer as part of what the Buddha taught. So do you guys have any questions on any of these 5 frequently asked questions here? Anything you would like to ask? Remember, you guys have the mics, and online you can put that into the comment section, or you can electronically raise your hand in Zoom. No questions? Okay, so let's go to the next set. Here, this is a common question people ask. What is our purpose in life? What is the purpose of our human existence? Where this question comes from is the mind's ego. The mind's ego thinks that there's some significance here for me in this life, and I have to have some significance in order to be able to be in this world, and there's got to be some significance for me. And sometimes people are looking for a certain plan and trying to figure out, what is my plan in this world, and what do I need to be doing in this world? Well, this comes from the mind's ego, and it also comes from so much time that we have available. If you go back to, say, times in prehistoric times where human beings were living in caves and rubbing sticks together, we weren't thinking about, what is our significance in this world? What is our purpose in this world? Those beings were just figuring out how to survive. They were trying to figure out how to put clothes on their body. They were trying to figure out how to put food into their mouth. They were trying to figure out communication and how to stay warm. That's what they were trying to do. They were trying to figure out survival. But what we oftentimes do is we try to look for this significance. We think there's some kind of purpose to our life. This is the mind's arrogance or ego, thinking that somehow we're this, grandiose individual. Well, you can train your mind to let all of that go and realize that you are just a human being, just like every other human being, and your mind doesn't need to adopt some type of significance. Because if you adopt a certain purpose and you think that this is your purpose, you will tend to cling to that. So, for example, when I first graduated college, I was in the IT field and I was doing computers. And when I was doing computers, if I would have thought that's my purpose in life and that's what I'm here to do, then that means I would have never been willing to change to do anything else, because I would have held on to that for the rest of my life. But instead, I was willing to change from that to opening my own businesses. At one point, I was doing business and I opened up these different businesses. And then if I would have clung to that and I would have thought that's my purpose, then I would have not been willing to be able to switch to do what I'm doing now, which is share the teachings of the Buddha with you. So if you allow your mind to cling onto some type of purpose, thinking this is your purpose in life, now your mind's going to experience discontentedness. Even this right here, me sharing the teachings of the Buddha, I know with 100% certainty this is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. But I still don't think of it as this is my purpose in life. I think about it as this is what I'm choosing to do because I have loving kindness and compassion for the world, and I would like to see other people be able to experience the enlightened mental state. But I don't think of it as this is my purpose, because then I would cling to this and hold on to it, and I'd be unwilling to die when it's time to die. I'd be holding on to it and thinking that this is what I need to be doing in this world, rather than understanding the world is impermanent and things are constantly changing, and I need to be willing to change with it. Otherwise, you're going to be discontent. Then sometimes people ask, can I exercise the physical body and still attain enlightenment? The answer is yes. There's nothing about exercise that is going to hinder you from getting to enlightenment. What can hinder you in terms of exercise is if, again, you cling to it. If you were exercising every morning at 8 a.m. and that's your goal, or 9 a.m. or 2 p.m. in the afternoon or whatever it is, and you were clinging to this, if this is what you're doing in the world, well, if you miss your exercise, you're going to end up experiencing discontentedness. Like, say you are used to exercising every morning at 8 a.m. Well, if you miss that, you might be grumpy and irritable. It's not because you didn't get the physical workout. It's because your mind was clinging to it and craving permanence. You can only be happy when you get what you want. So you can exercise and be healthy if you'd like to. There's nothing that says you can't. So if your mind is clinging to these things, that's what's going to cause the discontentedness. Or if you have arrogance or ego, or you think that other people are lesser of a person because you're choosing to exercise and they're not, you might actually experience arrogance and ego, where if you're going to exercise, that's something that you're choosing to do, but you shouldn't put in your mind the expectation that everybody has to exercise. And if they don't exercise, they're less of a person. And because I'm exercising, I am a better person. And those people are below me. that would be the ego. So you need to make sure that you don't have any of that stuff going on related to the exercise. But the exercise itself isn't the problem. The problem is the way the mind clings to it and then forms feelings, whether you get it or you don't, and the way that the mind can sometimes have arrogance and ego or conceit, thinking that you're better because you exercise and people who don't exercise are lesser of a being. That's the thing that you need to eliminate. Then this question, is medicine and medical procedures for the body an attachment? This question comes from people who don't understand what a craving, desire, attachment is. This is part of the very beginning education of learning how to train your mind to get to enlightenment, is to know what is a craving, desire, attachment. What a craving, desire, attachment is the way that the mind longs and yearns for something, wanting there to be permanence. The mind is seeking satisfaction externally. The mind thinks that the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some lasting satisfaction. It's the longing, the yearning for something. It's like an unquenchable thirst that the mind has, thinking the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide lasting satisfaction. So the mind will chase it and chase it and chase it and chase it. The craving, desire, attachment is in the mind. It's not the object itself. So for example, if I had a liter of water and I was driving to a hiking trail and I left the liter of water in the car and I was 30 minutes down the trail and I was like, oh my gosh, my water, I forgot my water. And now I run back to my car and I sling open the door and I get the water. Well, in this situation, there's a craving, desire, attachment there. That if the mind had the water, then that means that it's happy. But because I didn't have the water, the mind is upset and it's shaken up. Because there could be a second person out on the trail who also forgot their liter of water in the car. And now when they think about it, they're like, oh, I forgot my water. It's in my car. I should probably go back and get that. And now their mind's nice and calm, and they make their way back to their car and they get their water. So in this scenario, the object is exactly the same, the liter of water. The difference is that the first person had a longing, yearning for it, a craving for permanence, and they could only be happy if they had their water with them. And their mind was shaken up when they didn't have their water. The second person, their mind was completely fine. They understood this water is impermanent, and they just calmly made their way back to actually get the water. So the water itself isn't the craving, desire, attachment. It's the way the mind longs and yearns for it. So the same thing here. The medicine and the medical procedures isn't the craving, desire, attachment. It's the way the mind is longing, yearning for these things. So you could get a medical procedure and not have a craving, desire, attachment. You could use medicine and not have a craving, desire, attachment. Or you actually could have those things and actually be attached to it. It's based on how the mind relates to this object. It's not the object itself. And then what significance can I apply to dreams? Sometimes people contact me and they tell me all the different dreams that they have, and they're asking for, what's the significance of these dreams? What does this mean for my life? Well, I can share with you, it really doesn't mean anything at all. That the mind is very creative. The mind is able to think about all kinds of different things. And when you're dreaming, that is not true reality. That's just your mind being creative. Now, if you have dreams and you wake up and you're scared or fearful, or you're really happy and excited, you can look at those dreams and see, what is your mind craving? What are you longing, yearning for? Because if you have a regular dream where you always think about dying and you wake up and you're fearful of dying, there you can see that your mind's craving permanence. You're craving permanent life. You don't understand that this life is not permanent. And you can use that information to be able to train your mind to get to the point where you can let go and you won't have that fear of death anymore. You just understand that that's something that every single one of us are going to experience. So you can use your dreams as insight in order to be able to help you train your mind to get rid of cravings, desires, attachments. But it's not like, oh, is my boyfriend or girlfriend going to come back to me? Or am I going to get rich and wealthy or any of these other kinds of things? That's not the way you should look at dreams, because there's no kind of meaning in terms of that. Sometimes people ask me, why is enlightenment permanent? Because people understand that the Buddha taught impermanence, which means things are constantly changing. And sometimes people don't understand why enlightenment is permanent. They think that the Buddha taught everything is impermanent. The Buddha actually didn't teach that. He taught that there's something called conditioned objects that are impermanent, which is these things arise, they change, and they fade away. And then he taught that there's something called unconditioned objects. Unconditioned objects do not arise, they don't change, and they don't fade away. The Buddha's not trying to teach you the way the world should be. He's teaching you the way the world is. And by understanding the way the world is, you can actually navigate the world more peacefully. So you need to understand there's something called conditioned objects in the world. These conditioned objects arise, they change, and they fade away. Anything that you can see, hear, smell, taste, anything that comes in contact with the body, or any thoughts or ideas that go through the mind, this is all impermanent. They're constantly changing. And this is an important fundamental building block to understand the path to enlightenment, because the mind actually craves permanence while you live in an impermanent world. So there's no way for your mind to be permanently happy as long as you're craving permanence. So conditioned objects are going to change. They're going to arise, they're going to change, and they're going to fade away. But there's something called unconditioned objects. Unconditioned objects don't arise, they don't change, and they don't fade away, because there's no condition that is producing them. So there's two things that are unconditioned. Enlightenment is unconditioned, and the natural laws that the Buddha taught, those are unconditioned. They don't arise, they don't change, and they don't fade away. So in the unenlightened state, you have a conditioned mind. You have certain conditions in your mind that are producing the discontent feelings. That's why you experience anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other feelings, because of the conditions that are in the mind. But by the time you get to enlightenment, you've eliminated those conditions. You've removed them out of the mind. You've purified the mind. You've trained the mind. And now your mind is unconditioned. And with this unconditioned mind, there's no condition that needs to be met in order for you to experience the peace and joy. So in the unenlightened state, in order to be happy, there needs to be some condition that's met. Maybe your boss gives you a raise and you're happy. Or maybe it's sunny outside and you're happy. Or some other event is happening and now you are happy. But that happiness arises, it changes, and it fades away because it's conditional. When you clean your mind up and you purify the mind of that, you'll get to an unconditioned mind. And when your mind is unconditioned, there doesn't need to be any condition met in order for you to experience the happiness and the joy, the gladness that's in the mind. So while we say it's attaining enlightenment, one of the ways to think about it is that the mind is already enlightened, that there doesn't need to be any condition met in order for an enlightened being to experience enlightenment. What you need to do is actually purify the mind of the causes and conditions that are keeping you in the unenlightened state. So it's like if there's the sun is just always there, it's shining. But if the clouds are in front of the sun, you can't experience the rays of the sun. You've got to peel away those clouds in order to experience the rays of the sun. So the mind is the same way. The natural state of your mind is enlightened. Your mind is actually already enlightened, but you've got these pollutions that are in the way that are hindering you from experiencing it. Those are the conditions. Those are the conditions that are causing your mind to experience anger, sadness, frustration, and others. But when you eliminate those out of the mind is now unconditioned. It is purified. And because the mind is unconditioned, the natural state of the mind is to be happy and joyful and peaceful, bright and cheerful and glad and uplifted. That's the natural state of the mind. So that mental state is permanent because there's no condition that is causing it. So there's nothing that can happen in order to take it away. That it's an unconditioned mental state. So enlightenment is permanent because it's unconditioned. It doesn't arise, it doesn't change, and it doesn't fade away. There's no condition that is causing it or producing it, so therefore there's nothing that can actually take it away. And then lastly, people sometimes ask, why are donations of support for teachers in Gotama Buddha's teachings so important? There's two aspects to this. The first one is the continuation of the teachings of the Buddha. While it would be wise for a teacher to set up in a way that they're not charging people to be able to learn and grow and develop on the path, and things can be offered at no cost, it actually does cost money to be able to share the teachings. Nowadays, we need to pay for electric and water, and we need to pay for things in order to be able to host the teachings. So people oftentimes offer financial support and other resources to be able to offer the teachings and help people to be able to learn them. So in order for the teachings to continue in the world, there needs to be a certain amount of generosity so that then people can actually learn and understand the teachings, because there's a nice facility for people to be able to come and learn and understand. So ever since the lifetime of the Buddha, there's been this continuous practice of helping other people to be able to get access to the teachings. So there were people before all of us that benefited from the teachings of the Buddha, and they said, you know what? I would like to donate my land so that there could be a temple that could be built. And somebody donated this land that we're currently sitting on. This was over 500 years ago. And they gave this land because they benefited from the teachings of the Buddha, and they would like to see other people benefit as well. So they gave all their land to construct a temple. And then people came together and they donated a bunch of supplies, and they started constructing buildings and all these other things. And there's been this long stream of people. Even here, when I first started teaching in this room was really run down. It was old, it was uncared for, it was dilapidated, and slowly but surely people have decided to fix this place up, and you can see it looks really nice. We actually have air conditioning. When I first started teaching here, we didn't have air conditioning. I used to sit here and meditate, and I could feel the sweat rolling underneath of my clothes. It was so hot in here. But there were people that benefited from these teachings, and they said, you know what, we'd like to make this environment more comfortable for other people, so let's install some air conditioning, and let's get a microphone, and let's get some nice meditation cushions. So slowly but surely, people have been contributing to the continuation of the teachings of the Buddha, creating an environment that more and more people would be able to benefit from, to be able to learn the teachings. So that's the one first reason why it's important to be able to support the teachings, so that people can get access to them and experience this complete transformation of their mind in their life. And then the second reason why is because generosity actually leads to enlightenment. When you're practicing giving and sharing with other people, it actually trains your mind to let go. And you might decide to practice generosity towards the continuation of the teachings of the Buddha, but you might also choose to practice generosity in other ways too. You might decide to donate some money to an orphanage or resources to an orphanage. You might decide to help your neighbor or your coworker or something like this, sharing your time, effort, energy, and resources without any expectation of anything in return. When you have craving, desire, attachment in your mind, which every unenlightened being has, you'll tend to hold on to things very tightly, and you'll be somewhat selfish, and you won't like to share. It's my phone, my money, my food, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, my clothes, my jewelry, mine. Everything's mine. But when you live open-handedly and you're joyful in giving and sharing with others, this trains your mind to let go. And this is a daily practice that the Buddha taught. It's not just meditation that's going to lead to your enlightenment. You're going to need to practice other things as well. And generosity is one of those things that you need to practice. So I would encourage you to practice generosity with the people around you. But in some situations, you might decide to practice generosity towards the continuation of the teachings of the Buddha, so that other people can get access to them. So this is why it's helpful. It's helpful for you to be able to help others to be able to get access to the teachings, but it's also helpful for your mind, because it's going to lead to the elimination of craving, desire, attachment, which is the underlying cause of what's producing all your discontent feelings. So do you guys have any questions here on any of these things? Anything you'd like to ask? Yes, ma'am. For those of you guys online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or in Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like.
Hello, teacher. I have one question. So I feel like for enlightenment or happiness, to clear up your mind is like significant from what I heard just now. But I found it so difficult to clear up my mind, especially like you said, the pollution in my mind. Just now, like when I did meditation and when I try to focus on my breath, but those thoughts, those like bad thoughts or toxic thoughts, they still come up in my mind, and I found it so difficult to clear them up. Even though I wanted to do this thing, but it's so difficult. And also, like, if our mind is already enlightened, as you said, our mind is already enlightened, and sometimes it has pollution. Why is it so difficult to do this process? Why is it so difficult to let my mind back to the original state, the purified state. So that's my question.
Okay, the answer to both of your questions is actually exactly the same. The underlying problem that you're experiencing is the lack of wisdom, the unknowing of true reality. This is why your mind is having the constant random thoughts. This is why you find it difficult to actually train your mind, because you just lack wisdom of how to do it. It's just like the first time we ever brushed our teeth. It was difficult. It was hard for us to brush our teeth. We couldn't do it, right? But now it's so easy for you because you've practiced it so many times. But it was gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. But what the unenlightened mind does is it wants it now, right? That's the craving, desire, attachment. I want it now, instead of realizing that there's a gradual process here. It took the Buddha 6 years to get to enlightenment. But what people will sometimes do is they'll come to the temple and they'll expect to be able to be perfect at meditation right now. But this isn't possible, because the mind has this lack of wisdom that you just don't understand what you don't understand. But slowly but surely you can cultivate this wisdom, and then you'll see that it's actually quite straightforward to be able to train your mind. But when you lack wisdom about something, of course it'll seem difficult. Of course your mind will have lots of random thoughts and you'll find it challenging to do these types of things. So as you cultivate wisdom slowly but surely, and you learn the teachings, you'll see that it'll become easier and easier for you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. I don't see any other questions anywhere. All right. So now just a couple miscellaneous things that I have at the very back of the book is all through the entire book in the book series. I'm teaching people how to be able to get to enlightenment. But here at the very end of the book, I have this little section of how to determine if you've actually attained enlightenment or not, because that's something that you need to be able to know, is how to determine whether you've attained enlightenment. So these are just some things to keep in mind and criteria to know that you've actually made it to enlightenment. The first thing is that by the time you get to enlightenment, you'll never actually stop practicing these teachings. While when you first start, there's a lot of effort and it can seem very difficult to be able to train your mind to get to enlightenment, by the time you get to enlightenment, you're practicing these teachings effortlessly. It's almost like upgrading your operating system. If you've ever had a computer and you've upgraded the operating system, when you were on the old archaic operating system, you thought that it was going pretty well for you and you were able to accomplish all the tasks that you needed to accomplish. But when you upgraded the operating system, there was like a 2-week period, a 4-week period, 6-week period where it was kind of cumbersome for you. It was kind of challenging to figure out, where did they move the settings? Where did they move that to? Where did they move that to? And then eventually, once you got up and running on that new operating system, you were like, oh my gosh, this is so much easier. But when you were on the old operating system, you thought it was going well. And when you were upgrading and trying to figure out the new operating system, you were maybe having difficulties and struggles as you were learning that new operating system. But once you got up and running on the new operating system, you're like, oh my gosh, this works so much better. Why didn't they do this from the beginning? Right? It's the same way for getting to enlightenment, that you'll never stop practicing the teachings by the time you get there. That on your way there, it can feel somewhat cumbersome, but by the time you get to enlightenment, you'll notice that you'll be practicing the teachings effortlessly. And you'll see gradual progress all the way through. It's not like you work for 6 years or 10 years and then, well, wham, you instantly get to enlightenment. It's not like you're plugging away and not seeing any progress whatsoever, and then, well, wham, you get to enlightenment. That's not the case. You're actually seeing progress all the way through. I've had some students study with me for as short as 2 days, and they already started seeing progress, that they could already see certain emails that they got, that they would normally get upset or angry about. When they got this email on the third day of having learned, they actually noticed, oh my gosh, my mind is not upset and angry. I normally would get angry in this situation or frustrated. So you'll see progress all the way through, but by the time you get to enlightenment, you'll never stop practicing the teachings. You will be fully practicing the Eightfold Path, which includes the Four Noble Truths and the 5 precepts. These are some of the core central teachings of the Buddha, and you'll know these teachings inside and out, backwards and forwards, by the time you get to enlightenment, and you'll be practicing them closely. When you fully attain enlightenment as an arahant, that's the way the Buddha would refer to enlightened beings, as an arahant, you will have eliminated the 10 fetters. So you will know what the 10 fetters are, and you actually know how to eliminate them. In August, I'm actually going to be teaching a retreat where I'm going to be teaching individual fetters, these individual pollutions, very closely. I'm going to be spending an hour to an hour and a half on each individual fetter. So that might be something that you're interested in. You will have cultivated a mind that is completely practicing what's called the Brahma Viharas. The Brahma Viharas are 4 healthy mental states that are helping to antidote certain difficulties in your mind. This is where the Buddha kind of gets the reputation of being like a doctor, because there's certain symptoms that are in your mind that the Buddha was aware of, and then there's a certain prescription or an antidote that is applied. But you're your own best doctor. So if you learn the Brahma Viharas, when you see the symptoms coming up in your mind, you can actually apply the antidote or the prescription, and this will actually remedy the difficulties and struggles in the mind. So you'll be practicing those by the time you get to enlightenment. You'll also be fully practicing something called the 7 factors of enlightenment. This is actually to fine-tune your mind and bring it more and more to the middle. Then the biggest indication that your mind is actually enlightened is this last one. You'll know your mind's enlightened when you're no longer experiencing any discontentedness. It'll be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. You won't have any anger, any sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy, and you would have seen wider and wider windows of time where that's occurring. As you're making your way to enlightenment, you might get a couple of hours or a couple of days or a couple of weeks where your mind is actually peaceful. It's joyful. There's no difficult, discontent feelings whatsoever. Then as you continue forward to enlightenment, that widens wider and wider and wider, where you'll get 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, but then you'll experience some discontentedness. Then you'll get 6 months, and then you'll experience some discontentedness. But eventually, it's going to be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. There's no discontentedness, not even the slightest ickiness in the mind, not even the slightest bad mood or anything like that. Your mind is just completely peaceful. It's joyful. It's glad. It's uplifted. It's radiant. It's cheerful at all times. There doesn't need to be any condition met in order for that to occur. If it's sunny outside or raining, you can still be happy. If your bank account balance is here or here, you can still be happy. If your mom is alive or she's passed away, you can still be happy. But when you're craving permanence, you can't be happy in all those situations because your mind's not getting what you want. You can only be happy when mom's alive. When she's dead, your mind can't be happy. It's not your love that's doing that. It's the craving for permanence. You can only be happy when your bank account balance is up here. You can't be happy when your bank account balance is here. Or you can only be happy when it's sunny outside. You can't be happy when it's raining. But by the time you get to enlightenment, that's not the case. You'll see that it'll be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Your mind will be bright, cheerful, glad, and uplifted at all times. There's nothing that will shake up your mind. You'll notice that it's attentive, it's alert, it's calm and relaxed. And this is a permanent mental state. From the time you wake up in the morning, all day long, until you go to sleep, the mind is completely cheerful, bright, glad, joyful. So any questions here about how to determine if you're enlightened? Questions? Okay. So just a few more little things. This is the final things that the Buddha was teaching towards the end of his life as he was getting to the point where he was about to die. He knew he was going to die 3 months before he actually died. He gave his students a heads up and he let them know that he was actually going to be dying in 3 months. This is how enlightened he was. He knew exactly when he was going to be dying and he kind of let them know, which was wise because then if they had any remaining questions, they could actually ask their questions and they would be able to get help. So here's something that he says towards the end of his life. He says, "Wander forth, O monks, for the welfare of the multitude, for the peacefulness of the multitude, out of compassion for the world, for the good, welfare, and peacefulness of heavenly beings and humans. Teach, O monks, the teachings that are good in the beginning, the middle, and the end, with the right meaning and phrasing. Reveal the perfectly complete and purified holy life. There are beings with little dust in their eyes who are falling away because they do not hear the teachings. there will be those who will understand the teachings. So these teachings are the very best thing that you could ever do for your life, is to learn and practice these teachings, because as you become more and more peaceful and more joyful, you're not going to be causing harm to other beings. This is going to help you. It's going to help all those people around you, because you're not going to be causing harm to them. And it's going to help the world. Humanity is going to become a more kinder, gentler, more loving society. So this is the very best thing you could ever do. And the Buddha knew that. And that's why he encouraged his close students to go share these teachings, because he knew that they worked with 100% certainty, and he was interested in seeing countless people getting to enlightenment. His goal was for his teachings to reach the entire world. And that's what's happening right now, is they're reaching more and more people in the world all the time. And now more and more people can learn them and experience the transformation through these teachings. And here's the reason why a Buddha teaches: out of compassion for the world. Compassion is the concern for the misfortune of others. The Buddha didn't teach for his own benefit. He taught out of compassion for other people, because he understood the impact of this enlightened mind and what it means to be able to get to enlightenment, and what that would mean for your life and that transformation that you could experience. So that's why he dedicated his life to sharing these teachings, so that people like you could experience that same transformation. He did it out of the concern for the misfortune of others. Then, as he was continuing forward, he also taught this: one who sees the teachings sees me. One who sees me sees the teachings. The Buddha was a living, breathing, walking example of his teachings. Whatever he taught, that's what he was practicing as well. And this is one of the ways that you actually know that the Buddha lived and that he existed, because when you learn his teachings, you will actually see his teachings everywhere in the world around you. For example, he taught impermanence. Things are constantly changing. You will see this everywhere around you, like right here. We started out with a certain number of people in the classroom, and now we have a different number of people in the classroom. That is just impermanence. That's all that is. It's change. Things are going to be constantly changing in your life. When you see the teachings, you will see the Buddha. And the reason why he actually said this is because when he told people he was about to die, there was this one student that was clinging to him, and he was begging and pleading with the Buddha, please don't die, stay longer. He wanted the Buddha to stay. And the Buddha was like, why do you need this foul smelling body to stay here and teach you? I've been teaching you for 45 years the teachings of what it takes to get to enlightenment. Besides, one who sees the teachings sees me. So if you understand the teachings, you'll see the Buddha all the way around you at all times, whether it's about impermanence or discontentedness, the universal truth of non-self, the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path. You will see it everywhere. And then one who sees me sees the teachings. He was a living, breathing, walking example of his teachings. These are his very last words. This is what I'll finish with, and then I'll just open up to any remaining questions. This is what he said right before he actually died. He said, Ananda, it may be that you will think the teacher's instructions has ceased. Now we have no teacher. It should not be seen like this, Ananda, for what I have taught and explained to you as teachings and discipline will at my passing be your teacher. Now, monks, I declare to you, all conditioned things are of a nature to decay. Strive on untiringly. Right? So he used his very last words to actually deliver one of his very first teachings. His very first teaching is on the universal truth of impermanence, that the world's constantly changing. And he was reminding people of that because, of course, as a Buddha, he would know that his last words would be captured and impactful, and people would study his very last words. So his very last words are the actually very first teaching that you need in order to be able to get on the path to enlightenment, is to understand that the world around you is constantly changing, because your mind craves permanence. Your mind, if it gets what it wants, it gets pleasant feelings like happiness and excitement. But if your mind doesn't get what it wants, it gets painful feelings like anger, sadness, and frustration. And when you can see that your mind is craving permanence while you live in an impermanent world, then you see what your work is on the path to enlightenment is to train your mind to no longer crave permanence. And that's what the Buddha's guidance and his techniques are going to help you to be able to accomplish, is to train your mind to let go so that you can come to the middle, where you're not chasing and longing, yearning, and forming your feelings based on whether you get what you want or not, but you're also not on the other side where you're dull and lethargic and lazy. He's helping you learn how to come to the middle where you can gradually work towards your goals and objectives through wise decision making. So any questions here on the last words of the Buddha? No questions? Okay, I don't see any here online either. Okay. So what I'm going to do then is I'm just going to end class by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest to learn and understand the teachings of the Buddha. If you guys would like to learn more, there's opportunities for you guys to do that. This evening at 6:30, we have a meditation here where I'm just going to be doing a meditation with students and then opening up to whatever questions you guys have. It syncs up with the Sunday night walking market. So if you'd like to come for meditation, you're welcome to come at 6:30. And then at 9 o'clock tonight, I'm going to be teaching this same topic where we'll be doing meditation, and I'm teaching this because I do this 2 times a day, because I live stream the classes in different time zones. Like right now, people in Europe are sleeping. So they'll be able to wake up and attend a live class if they like. So no matter where you are in the world, I'm teaching on a schedule that accommodates you, where you can attend these classes live, or you can actually watch the recordings, because everything that I teach is recorded on YouTube. It's on our podcast. It's in Facebook and all these other different places. So if you like to see all the different options for learning and growing, you can see the calendar over there on our bulletin board. You can also see our website. You can come and talk to me if you like. The best place to get started is this first book. As you guys see, this is kind of the ending part of the book. But if you start at the very beginning, you can actually get this for free. You can download it from our website. You can take it and go print it if you like for yourself. If you like printed versions here, you just need to reimburse us for our printing costs, so that way we can use that money to go purchase more books, or you can order it on Amazon. And what I do each Sunday is I go chapter by chapter, gradually helping students to be able to understand the path to enlightenment. And we're going to be restarting from the very beginning on the 9th of August. So next week, I'm going to be teaching a different topic, which is a topic on the 5 hindrances, because all the way through this book, I've been teaching students how to get to enlightenment. But now what I'm going to do next Sunday is I'm going to teach you the 5 things that are going to hinder you or block you, obstruct you from actually getting to enlightenment. Because then when you understand what those things are, then you can actually eliminate them, and then you won't be obstructed from getting to enlightenment. So you're welcome to attend any of these kinds of things and even get personal guidance if you like. So whatever you do today, have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Perhaps we'll see you in the future. Take care and be well. Sawadee krap.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To provide support for this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha. To access more teachings, visit buddhadailywisdom.com. There, you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Remember to establish a daily, consistent meditation practice, along with learning and practicing these teachings. A well-developed meditation practice is the foundation in which to train the mind to attain enlightenment.